Welcome back to JRG Guitars. Today we're going to be talking about this Marshall head right here. This is a 1979 Marshall JMP 100 watt head. This head has been heavily modified. It is far from stock. I've owned this since the early 90s, so just around 30 years. Bought it in stock condition and then had it modified by a guy in the local LA area named Mike Morin. He was known as the Amp Wizard, and he was known for modifying Marshalls up to get that classic sort of 80s and early 90s heavy, overdriven tone that was popular on all those albums from bands like Rat, chasing after that brown sound from Van Halen, but yet a little more distorted and a little more sizzly. I had him modify this thing, and I loved it. He did many modifications on it, and the last and most formidable one, I guess you could say, was what he deemed it as his Head from Hell mod. So it has a different power transformer in there, has another tube stage for more gain. It has an effects loop which runs it through yet another tube stage. You could split your output tubes so you could drop it down from 100 to 50 watts. Has a line out here. We have a push-pull for a bright switch as well. Just kind of a lot going on it, and this is not for clean tones. This is for turning up your Marshall loud, ticking off your neighbors, and trying to blow your own head off with volume. This is a Marshall 100 watt, which even at stock levels with nothing touched, these things are loud. So this thing not only gets loud, but it gets mean and it gets nasty. So what we're going to do today is we're going to put some new preamp tubes in. So the sound on it just didn't quite have that bite, didn't quite have that edge, so I bought some preamp tubes. Just bought them online. Didn't go the groove tube route because those are fairly expensive tubes, and since this is a modified Marshall, I have 2 additional tube stages, so I have a total of 5 preamp tubes. If I went the groove tube route at about 30 bucks a tube, you know, now we're looking at 150 bucks to try and put this whole thing together. So I got these for less than half that cost, spent about 60 bucks for 5 of them, and we're going to pull out the old, pop in the new tubes, and then turn this thing on and see what it sounds like, and see if I can get it back to where it was, to have that nice bite and that nice sizzle. So stick around, should be a lot of fun. So here we can see inside the amp we have our 4 power tubes on there, and then we have our 3 preamp tubes that are stock to the Marshall of this model, and then an additional preamp tube here for another gain stage, and then another preamp tube here that runs through the effects loop. I have my speaker outs here, and then my a line out here if I wanted to run it like direct out of the preamp, and then hiding there, let's see if we can pop this off. And then hiding back here is a power transformer down there. I don't claim to know anything about modifying amps at all, but I remember when I was in the midst of modifying this and I bought it and he did the initial mod on it, he said you're going to want to have this power transformer there, a special one that he had made of some sort that did whatever it did, and he had me purchase it, and I remember it sat just on top of the amp for a while, not wired in, because I could only afford to buy it, not afford to pay him to put it in for a little while. And that's when he went and did the rest of the modification, which then puts this into what he calls his Head from Hell mod. The thing screams. It's absolutely fantastic. Love this head. Don't really get to play it all that often as it should be, because like I said, it will peel the paint off the walls and blow your head clean off your shoulders. So working on amplifiers is certainly not my specialty, and I do know that if I start to get under the hood on this thing, I could really damage the amplifier and really damage myself. Some of the voltages that amplifiers are working with are certainly lethal if you get in there and touch something that you should not. So other than replacing tubes, I would not want to do any more work than that because I just do not have the expertise and I wouldn't want to injure myself. But changing out tubes is fairly easy. The amp is unplugged, no longer hooked up into power. Tubes are cold. They're not, you know, I didn't just crank this thing up to 10 for an hour and then start to do this. So it's as easy enough as pulling out the old tube and popping in the new one. So here is the tube that I had. It is made in the Slovak Republic. So here's our new tube. I'm going to just pop out the old, pop in the new, repeat that process 4 more times, and then we should be good to go. So pop it out, pop it in. The pins on these are aligned so there's a gap right on one spot so you know where the alignment is and you plug it in. There's no worry about, am I putting this in wrong or reversing some kind of polarity or some kind of voltages. It's easy as in and then out. So we'll just get all these in here and then see what we can make happen. Alright, so the process has been repeated. We will now just put the cover on, seal this guy up, and plug it in and see what we can get. So recording through my interface on my Line 6 Pod Go is much easier than trying to do an actual recording off a speaker cabinet. But we have to get some good samples here. We want to see what we've got. So I've got my head with my tubes all spruced up, ready to go. And we've got it mic'd up with a Shure SM567, your pretty standard good mic for recording guitar. I've got the mic set just off center of the cone with a straight shot in. It's pretty close up to the grill of the speaker cabinet. These speaker cabinets are a metal grill, so I don't want it to touch and get any kind of vibration. And we're going to crank this thing up and see how it goes. I'm just in my garage, so the neighbors will hear this next door, but should be okay. It's only about 12:30 in the afternoon, so it should be nice. This is the setup in the garage. Got my drum kit right there, and we're going to see how we do. So from the mic, we come over here to my Focusrite interface. It'd be nice if I had a mic pre to go into, and then from there go out into the Focusrite, and, you know, make it sound even more warm and better, like we're running through a console or something like that. But nevertheless, we go into the Focusrite, and then I'm just capturing it right into from there, you know, go digital out of the USB. I capture right in here. This is just a Chromebook, and I'm using BandLab, the online version of it. On my desktop PC is inside the house, so I don't really have a way to get into there very easily. So this is the next best option, and actually captured it digitally, so it doesn't really matter that it's only a Chromebook. But we're going to turn this thing up loud and see what we can get. So for these demos, I chose my Renson custom guitar. I had this built for me by a luthier local to the Southern California area, Nork Renson. He operated out of North Hollywood, and made this guitar for me, had it right to the spec I wanted. I certainly didn't know a whole lot back when I had this done in 1990, 1991. Might have asked for some stuff more specifically, but he knew what to do and just gave me a beautiful guitar that to this day still plays like a dream. It's an all maple neck and fretboard. I've got a Duncan JB humbucker in the bridge position. Originally when he made it, I had him put a Duncan distortion in there. I switched out for the JP, slightly lower output, maybe just a little bit more tonal characteristic that I was looking for. But since I was plugging into this thing, which is supposed to just shred and really kick the doors off of something, I wanted to have this guitar, which is sort of my most hot-rodded guitar. It's got the Floyd Rose on it. So this was the guitar choice here for these first demos. I'll probably plug in that SG, which has the Pearly Gates humbuckers in there just to get a little different perspective, and we'll give some tones on that one too. Alright, so we are set up, ready to go. I've got this head, the master volume set just over 2, and it is excruciatingly loud. It is just completely insane in here. There's a pretty good low hum that comes from the amp, so that's one of the benefits of turning up loud. Not only do I saturate those power tubes and get a little bit better break up there, but you overcome that noise force. So I'm going to run through some rhythm riff type stuff. You can really hear that chugging and the burn of this amp. We'll play some single line stuff too, but we're definitely going to piss some neighbors off right now. Let's go! So for my next passes, I've moved the mic back. We're about 3-4 feet away from the actual 412 cab. Still the same SM57. So with it being back this far, we'll pick up the cabinet as it's a little bit distant. Instead of picking up just one speaker, one piece of that cone right there, back this far, we'll get all the cabs where they kind of converge at that area. And it'll probably pick up some of the room, which is not acoustically treated. It's just my garage with a bunch of stuff stored in here. But we're just going to give some, to have a little bit of perspective and a little bit of demo, how different that might sound. Alright, so we have the mic back up close on the cabinet. We've got the SG with the pearly gates ready to rock. We'll give you a little bit bridge pickup and net pickup just so we can hear what we've got. Here we go. So there we go. My ears are absolutely ringing right now. I can't hear a thing. So I'm sitting in a 2-car garage that's just loaded with a bunch of family stuff, and I've got my small little section where I've got my electronic drum kit, and I've got a 100-watt Marshall and 2 412 cabinets, and a bunch of outboard gear crammed in the corner that has no business being turned up that loud in a residential neighborhood, and that's why we did it. So this was definitely a lot of fun. I'm really satisfied with how the amp is sounding now. It was a little flat, a little dull sounding. Those tubes kind of spruced it up, gave it that edge that it was missing. It's still just an absolutely insane amplifier. I mean, you turn it up to 2 and it's deafening. Just to have this thing cranking and going at full tilt volume, it would just be painful. Your ears would, I mean, probably literally be bleeding. Nevertheless, this was a lot of fun. If you enjoyed this type of content, please give me a thumbs up. And if you really enjoyed it, think about subscribing and hit that notification bell so you can see when the next video comes out. We'll have some more stuff coming your way. And until next time, thanks for tuning in to JRG Guitars.